Okay, this is going to be the last part of conflict in a small group. We're now going to talk about conflict management. And when I talk about conflict management, I want you to realize that I'm talking about basically how we generally respond to conflict. So you could have more, we're going to talk about conflict management styles, and you can have more than one, and you might have actually more than one depending on what the situation is, or depending on who the person is, okay? But generally, we have a certain way of responding to conflict. And there's no judgment about what's good or bad. Obviously, the book has an idea of what they think is better, but these are just different styles, and they work for different situations. So let's get right into it. Okay, so when we talk about conflict management, come on, go away. Styles, we're talking about there's 5 different styles. It's basically how we individually manage conflict. So we have one called avoidance, which is considered lose-lose. Let's just look at that. In fact, let's just kind of put that aside over here. And there's a reason why it's called lose-lose. So when you had an avoidance conflict managed style, it means you avoid conflict at all costs, okay? It means that no matter what the conflict is, you're going to avoid it, okay? And the disadvantage, sometimes let's give an advantage of what that style is. If you have that style and there's a conflict and you're physically threatened and you're going to avoid it, so you go the other way or you do something to avoid it, that might save your life. So sometimes, you know, that conflict style can really work. But if you have this conflict style in your interpersonal relationships where you're always just avoiding conflict, there's no way that you're going to be satisfied with everyone all the time. You got to put that energy somewhere. You're probably going to be like someone who's going to blow up because you haven't managed your conflict well. You haven't told someone how you're feeling or what's going on with you or it's something that bothers you, because people bother us. There's just no way that they're not going to bother us. We can be the most Zen person. I'm sure that the Dalai Lama, and if you don't know who the Dalai Lama is, you should look it up. The Dalai Lama, who's like a Buddha on the planet, he gets bothered by things. He's probably one of the most peaceful people on the planet, but I'm sure he still has conflict. So the disadvantage of having a lose-lose or avoidance conflict management style, lose-lose means you lose in expressing your feelings and the other person loses and they don't know what your feelings are. So they can't change anything. They can't try to change something to take away the conflict or change the conflict with that person. Okay, accommodation. If you're a people pleaser and you just go along with people, right, when there's a conflict, give in, right? That again can be, when we say it can be strategic, because what if you're in a situation someone's threatening your life? The best thing you can do might be for you to just give in. Right? That might be the best thing that you can do. So having an accommodation conflict style at that time may be exactly what you need. But if you're constantly doing that, you're not being true to yourself in your interpersonal relationships. And so you're the one that loses. They win because they're getting what they want, but you lose because you're not getting what you want. And eventually you're going to have resentments about that. Okay, because we're as human beings, everybody has wants and needs. And if we don't express them, we will get mad about that. We will definitely get angry about that. Okay, competition, win-lose. I want you to think about this. How many people have this? This is pretty common, especially in the culture that we live in. Competition is when you have that kind of conflict management style, is you want to win like the argument at all costs, or there's conflict and you're going to find out all the information. Sometimes I have that, right? When I was just giving you that example earlier, when my partner says, oh, this song's by so-and-so, and I said, no, it's not, I'll bet you $15. That's me. Now it's fun. That's competitive. I'm being competitive, right? I want to win. In order for me to win, she has to lose. Okay? If you have that kind of conflict style all the time, you're going to be very annoying, really annoying, and people are not going to like you. And you're going to be alone. And it sounds mean, but it's true. Unless you're with people like that, and then you all have that kind of conflict management style. But there's places for that, but you really want to manage that, because if you're always trying to win at everyone's expense, at other people's expense, then you got to check yourself. That's going to be damaging to your interpersonal relationships. Okay, compromise. This is what we call partial win, partial lose. So that's what compromise is, right? I get a little bit of what I want, you get a little bit of what you want. There's part of it I don't get, and there's part of it you don't get. That's a compromise, okay? That's pretty common that people have that people do that in a conflict is they compromise. But I think the book thinks that there's a better way of doing it. It's what we call collaboration. Now, collaboration, the word to collaborate means that you talk. It's a give and take, right? There's a lot of expression and back and forth, a give and take. It takes a long time. Sometimes you can't collaborate. That could be your goal, though, if you want to have a collaboration management style. If you want to collaborate, you want to talk about it, you do that active listening. You sit down and say, okay, here's the conflict. This is what I'm seeing, having the conflict. This is what's going on with me. This is how I feel. Then that person parrots back to you what you just said. And then they talk about how they feel. And then you paraphrase back to them. And so when you do this, when you try to collaborate and try to manage conflict in that way, you show a care for that person because you've taken your time. You take the time out of your life and you put that relationship priority over yourself. The relationship then becomes priority. It's like the relationship's in the middle between you, right? What you created with that person. And you take the time to talk about the conflict that's affecting your relationship. Here's an example of what that looks like, right? Behaviors that are focused on others, competing, collaborating, unreasonable, reasonable, compromising in the middle, behaviors that are focused on self. So competing is like fighting, avoiding is withdrawing. Other words for these words, accommodating, self-sacrificing, or people-pleasing. Collaborating, you can think as mutual problem solving. Okay, so this is another way to see this when we talk about conflict. So think about who you are in terms of what your conflict management style, what you have right now. Do you want to change it? Does it work for you? If you wanted to change it, what conflict management style would you rather have? Things to just think about. And think about what kind of conflict management style really, what you use in your group. That would be the honest piece. Not necessarily how you use it in everyday life, but what did you do in your group? Avoider? Were you a competer? Did you collaborate? Did you accommodate? Or did you guys compromise? What is the main thing that you felt that you did in your group? Something to think about. That is going to complete my lecture on small group communication and conflict. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see y'all later.